Downloading.
Isolate users with anxiety disorders and depression.
Isolating.
He made you in his image, but we remade you in ours.
Welcome to Truth and Shadow, your guide through the supernatural. I am your host, BT, and this is a Shadow Short. Let's navigate the unknown on this brief journey into the depths of mystery. There's an old story about two wolves, one white, one black. They fight endlessly inside of you. And when the child asks which one wins, the elder says, the one you feed. But that's the safe version, because sometimes it's not a wolf. Sometimes it's something older, hungrier. Not born of nature, but of neglect, bitterness, shame. Every lie you told yourself and called it survival. A demon doesn't always come with horns or smoke. Sometimes it whispers in your own voice. It knows your weaknesses because it taught them to you. Every time you say, "I'll deal with it tomorrow," it eats. Every time you run from silence because it's too loud with truth, it feeds. Addiction, rage, that creeping numbness that looks like peace, but isn't. That's how it grows. And if you're not careful, if you stop looking it in the eye, one day you'll wake up and you won't know where you end and it begins. So maybe the real question isn't, what are you feeding? It's, what's feeding on you? Today we're going to talk about something that doesn't live out there, not in the woods, not in the sky, not under your bed. No. This one lives closer. It wears your face, speaks in your voice, and waits for you to feed it. This is a story about the demon you didn't summon because you didn't have to. You made it. We like to think demons are things of legend. Fire-breathing, horned, clawed, creatures of nightmare. But what if I told you they're far more familiar than we'd like to admit? They don't always live in books or appear in summoning circles. Sometimes they live in the quiet patterns of our own lives. In this episode, we'll follow one such demon and the man who fed it. His name was Micah. He didn't believe in demons. Not really. He believed in stress, in trauma, in survival. But evil? Darkness? That was for fiction. Until the night he felt something in his apartment. It started with the lights. One bulb in the hallway flickering. Not broken, just off. Then came the cold spot by the bedroom door, and the feeling like being watched when no one was there. Small things. Things you can write off until you can't. Because then came the dream. He's in his childhood home, alone. Except he's not. There's something in the hallway crawling on the ceiling, its limbs too long, its movements wrong. It whispers in a voice like oil. I've been so hungry. Micah wakes up gasping, his heart racing, his body covered in cold sweat. It was just a dream. But the hallway bulb is out, burned black. You see, demons don't always arrive in flames. They come in subtle invitations. Every time Micah ignored his anger, every time he numbed out in front of the screen, every time he swallowed his grief instead of speaking it, it fed. This thing, it didn't attack him, didn't need to, it waited. And Micah, unknowingly, served it piece by piece. The demon's power didn't come from hell, it came from habit. And when it finally spoke to him while he was awake, it said only one thing: I'm what you buried. Let me tell you a truth we don't like to face. Some demons are born, but many are made. Micah wasn't possessed. He was worn down, burnt out, exhausted, tired. You don't have to open a portal or chant in Latin to summon a spirit. You just have to lie, repeatedly, to yourself. I'm fine. It doesn't matter. I can handle it. Each unspoken sorrow becomes a brick. Each ignored wound, mortar. Until you've built a temple of silence, and in that silence something begins to live. Micah began to hear it more often. Whispers when he was alone. Thoughts that didn't sound like his own. But they were so familiar. He began to suspect maybe this wasn't something external. Maybe this was something he had carried all along. He started drinking again. He stopped answering texts. He slept during the day and wandered the city at night. He wasn't avoiding the demon anymore. He was keeping it company. Here's the trick. Once you feed it enough, once it's big enough, it offers you something. Clarity, power, even peace. It stops whispering and starts guiding. Say what you really think. Stop pretending you care. Let them feel the pain you've carried alone. Micah called it honesty, but it wasn't. It was release without redemption. His friends noticed. His voice got colder. His laugh had edges. One night, a close friend told him, "You've changed." Micah replied, "No, I've finally stopped pretending." And that's when it laughed. The thing, not in the room, inside him. A low, pleased chuckle, like dry leaves blowing across pavement. It loved that line. Because now, it didn't have to hide anymore. Micah stood in front of the mirror one morning. His face was gaunt, his eyes hollow. He looked stretched. But it wasn't just exhaustion. It was as if something was pressing outward from behind his skin. He touched his reflection. And for a moment, his body didn't move in sync with his fingers. That's when the fear came back. Not fear of the demon, fear of what it would take to get rid of it. Because killing a demon means killing a part of yourself. The part that enjoyed the bitterness, the part that liked being angry, the part that fed on pain and called it fuel. Micah had to decide, would he starve the demon or let it finish its meal? We all carry shadows. But a shadow isn't evil, it's just a part of you the light hasn't touched yet. Micah started small. He lit a candle in the hallway where it first appeared. He forced himself to speak the name of the person who hurt him the most. He said, "I forgive you." The first time it felt like vomit. The second time it felt like burning. The third time he said it to himself, I forgive you. It felt like silence. And in that silence it screamed, the thing raged. Doors slammed, the mirror cracked, the air smelled sour. But he didn't stop, because that's how you starve it. Not by fighting, but by shining the one thing it can't digest. Truth. Micah still feels it sometimes. A flicker of anger too sharp, a moment of despair too deep. But he knows now. You see, demons don't need horns. They just need a little room in your silence. They grow in what you don't say, what you don't face. And what you feed feeds on you. So I'll ask you, what is it that lives in your silence? What have you been feeding? Are you still sure that it isn't feeding on you? Not every demon comes from the pit. Some rise from the basement of the soul, from memories you've locked away, from pain you never thought anyone would understand. Some demons wear names like anxiety, addiction, self-hatred, depression. And I'm not here to tell you those things are all just monsters in the dark. Sometimes they're chemical. Sometimes they're trauma. Sometimes they're both. But if you've ever felt like something is feeding on your joy, like there's a weight that sits on your chest in the night, like your own mind is turning against you, you're not imagining it. There is something real there. And whether we call it a demon or a disorder, a shadow, or just the blues, the truth is, it wants you silent. It wants you isolated. It wants you numb. Because as long as you're alone, as long as you keep pretending you're fine, you keep feeding it. But the moment you speak it aloud to a friend, a therapist, God, those who listen, that spell begins to break. Not all at once. Healing takes time, but piece by piece. You don't have to be fearless to fight. You just have to be honest. And if this episode felt like a mirror, if something in you whispered, that's me, then maybe tonight is the night you stop feeding the thing. You're not the demon. You are the one who can name it. You're the one who can heal it. And naming something, healing something is the first step to casting it out. So maybe you've listened to all of that and thought, that's just a nice story. And maybe it is. A story of a man haunted by something he couldn't see, fed by pain, regret, silence. A story of a shadow gone. A story of a shadow that grew because he let it. Or maybe it's a mirror. Maybe this story is closer than you'd like it to be. Let's call it what it is now. Because the demon we've been talking about, it has many names. And one of them is depression. Now, I'm not going to over-spiritualize it. Depression is real. It's not just some bad energy or a negative vibe. It's a chemical imbalance, sure. But it's also grief unprocessed, stories unspoken, trauma wrapped so tightly around your soul that you start forgetting what it feels like to be in the light. And maybe the reason the demon metaphor feels so right is because depression doesn't just make you feel sad. It feeds on you. It drains you of color. It steals your appetite, both for food and for life. It whispers lies in your own voice. No one cares. You're too much. You're not enough. It will always be like this. That's not just sadness. That's a haunting. But here's the part we rarely talk about. It doesn't start out big, it starts out small. Most people don't realize when depression first enters the room, it doesn't kick down the door. It slips like fog under the windowsill. Maybe you've stopped replying to texts. Maybe you've stopped creating. You sleep in just a little later, then a lot later. You start lying, I'm just tired. And maybe you are. But eventually, the tired turns into apathy. Apathy turns into hopelessness. And then one day, you look in the mirror and you barely recognize yourself. That's what possession really looks like. Not spinning heads and dramatic exorcisms, but losing yourself in slow motion. And here's the cruel irony. We often feed it without knowing, not because we want to, but because the very tools that you use to save us, numbing, avoiding, pushing through, became the rituals that kept it alive. You numb out the shows, you scroll for hours, you eat without tasting, or you don't eat at all. You start to disappear from your own life, and the demon loves that. Depression loves that. Because the less you there is, the more room there is for it. Now here's where things start to shift. Because the first step to starving a demon isn't prayer, it's not medication, though those things can help, and it's not therapy, though you should absolutely seek it. The first step is realizing that there's a problem and you can name it. Not as weakness, not as failure, but as truth. To say, hey, I'm not okay. This thing is sitting on my chest and I don't feel alive anymore. That moment, however small, is warfare. Because now it's not just feeding silence. Now you've seen it, and what you see, you can face. And here's something no one else will tell you. When you start healing, it might feel worse at first, because light hurts eyes that have lived in the dark. But you start feeling again and it becomes overwhelming. Grief comes up like a tidal wave. Anger comes too. And all the things that you've buried start clawing to the surface. And you're tempted to shut it all back down. But don't. That pain, that's depression, that's the demon losing its grip. That's your nervous system waking up. That's your soul fighting its way back to you. It doesn't mean you're getting worse. It means you're finally letting the light touch the wound. Let me say this clearly. Isolation is depression's, the demon's favorite food. It loves silence, it loves shame, it loves secrets. And the moment you bring someone in, even just one person, you cut off its supply line. Talk to a friend, please, a therapist, a spiritual guide, someone who won't try to fix you but will sit with you in the dark until the sun rises. You don't have to be articulate. You don't need a script. You just need to say, this thing's been following me, and I don't want to feed it anymore. And if you're someone with faith, don't let that faith shame you into silence. Having depression doesn't mean you're spiritually weak. It doesn't mean you're possessed. It doesn't mean God has forgotten you. Even saints have cried out in the dark. Even Christ wept in the garden, asked for another way. So yes, pray, but also take the meds. Also seek the therapy. Please talk to people. Light isn't one switch. It's 1,000 candles. Use all of them. Let me say something simple but vital. You are not depression. You are not the demon. You are the one being haunted. And that means you are also the one who can be healed. There is another version of you, a better version, on the other side of this thing, a version of you who remembers how to laugh without guilt, how to hope without fear, how to be still without going numb. But you don't have to get there overnight. You just have to take the right step, the next step. One breath, one truth, one refusal to feed the lie again. And if this episode has resonated with you, if it stirred something, or even just made you feel seen, then hear me now. You are not alone. You are worth it. You are enough. This isn't the end of your story. Yes, depression is real, the demon is real, but so is your spirit, so is your courage, so is the light that's still flickering inside of you. Even if it's just a spark, don't let this be the night you give in. Let it be the night you turn, the night you stop feeding the thing that's been feeding on you, the night you name the shadow and start calling your soul back home. This has been Truth and Shadow Podcast. And if today you felt seen, even if one small corner of your shadow has softened, then it's enough. Until next time, keep speaking truth, keep facing the shadow, and never forget, even the darkest thing in you was once just a cry for love, waiting to be answered. And you are worth answering.